Hey, welcome back to another round of Weekly Roundup. My name is Frankie.
And I'm Ryan from the Coffee Break.
Yeah, and thanks Coffee Break for bringing us all the juicy news as always.
That's the only way to stay informed. Remember to subscribe to the Coffee Break.
Okay, so as usual, every week you will help us to compile all the interesting news for the week, right?
Yep.
And what's interesting this week?
I think for me, the most interesting of the past week must have been Nvidia's announcement of new chips.
Oh yeah, with the world becoming more and more AI today, it needs to have very powerful chips in order for all the things to happen, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So today, this company already makes very powerful chips.
Correct.
Right, so it's making another leap, extending its lead that it already has against its competitors. So Jensen Huang and the team, announced B200 graphics processing units that can provide up to 20 petaflops of FP4 power from its 208 billion transistors.
Well, those words sounds very technical and all that. The only thing that I think I can understand is the word transistors over here. So to give you some context, right? Transistors is like the switch inside a chip.
Yep.
Right? As we all know, electronic chips, they can only recognize 0 and 1s. And a combination of 0 and 1s will give different commands to the machine.
Yep.
So the more transistors you have in a chip, it means it can give up more complicated commands. And now we're talking about 208 billion transistors. So it's like 208 billion switches in one small little tiny chip.
About this size, I think.
Wow.
Which is not big, right? But it's about this size.
And it can do a lot of generative AI stuff.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And at the same time, it also announced GB200 with features the same of the two Blackwells. So they call this B200 Blackwells, right? So this GB200 combines two of the same, making it even a bigger chip and
so it will more powerful, right?
even more powerful.
So
right.
it can produce 30 times the performance of the workload of the existing chips, if I'm not wrong.
And
right?
being much more efficient. So Nvidia claims this combination, right, can reduce cost and energy of consumption by up to 25 times when compared to its flagship Hopper GPU, H100. So the H100 today is the one that's being in use.
Which is the top one today.
The top one
as
today
at the day that they announced the new chip.
As this is the top one. So this chip itself is costing about $30,000 per chip.
30,000 for
For that
For
one
this thing.
chip, right?
Alright.
And has been the one powering Nvidia's revenue last year and the past year or so.
Right.
So now they are introducing a bigger chip and it's going to do massive things. And companies are going to, again, flock to get this chip, right?
There's one particular company that buys a lot of this H100 chips, right?
Early this year, so Mark Zuckerberg announced that Meta is investing about $9 billion buying H100.
$9 billion. $9 billion divided by 30,000, that's how many chips?
350,000 H100 chips. And that was early this year. That's going to go into their cloud computing. That's going to probably make, I'm not sure what's going to do for Meta, but that was in its plan.
Maybe for the
year.
metaverse and stuff like that. Right?
Yeah. But with this new announcement, does that mean that 10 billion goes to waste?
Yeah. Now you think about
Because
it.
it's only 3 months down the road, right? It's only
Correct.
been 2-3 months down the road. So has it gone to waste?
But the thing is, technology evolves so quickly, right? According to the Moore's law, every 2 to 3 years, your chip power is double up. So if you put it in that perspective, whatever you buy today, it's going to be obsolete maybe 1 or 2 years down the road. So I suppose even though now they are one generational behind, but it still makes sense to have like 300 over 1,000 of that H100 chips because it is still very powerful and probably is sufficient for Meta to do whatever that they want to do in the future.
Correct. Nvidia also claimed that this Blackwell chip, right, it would take quarter amount of chips that's required to run a 1.8 trillion parameter model. Right. So that 1.8 parameter model would have taken 8,000 Hopper GPUs and 15 megawatts of power. But with this new Blackwell chip, only 2,000 Blackwell chips are required to carry out the same task while consuming 4 megawatts only.
Okay, so
A quarter
yeah.
of the chips required and a quarter of the energy required, right?
Okay, that means you save more money on energy costs. You also save money on space. So you don't need to rent such a big space to host all the servers and whatnot.
Yeah. So, and Jensen Huang itself says that, quoting the Moore's law, right, that says that computing power increases by 100 times every 10 years. In the last 8 years itself, he said Nvidia has increased the power of artificial intelligence by 1,000 times. And that's 8 years.
Wow.
So with 2 more years to go, right, sky is the limit.
So one day really we're talking about potentially machine will take over the world and
It probably already is. Until the day it goes sentient, then we'll see Terminator really happening.
Hopefully it's for the good of humanity and not to destroy the world.
For those of you who don't know what Moore's Law is actually named after Gordon Moore, the founder of Fairchild Semiconductor and Intel. And he was the one in 1965, so that was 6 decades ago posited that the number of components per integrated circuit will double every year.
So today you're talking about 208 billion transistors inside. So 2 years down the road, it will be 416 billion.
Based on more. But I don't think that holds anymore because, technology has advanced so much, right?
And
you
with
look at
AI, they probably come out with newer designs, better designs compared to the past, right?
So enough with the geeky stuff. I think we must also give tribute to why was the chip named Blackwell. So the chip is named Blackwell after David Blackwell, the first black scholar inducted in the National Academy of Science in the US, right? And what Jensen Huang aims for the chips to do is to really realize the promise of AI for every industry. Now we are seeing a lot of tech companies using it. I think also a bit of automotive. So I think they're also exploring into that stage. But what about industries like banking, manufacturing? How can they then utilize these chips and make it more efficient for their work, for what they do?
Even for us, we are using some sort of AI to help us to produce videos today. But hopefully one day we don't need to go to the path where I need to AI generate myself and be a perpetual host of the show. But yeah, it has helped us to do a lot of easy tasks in terms of editing videos. So that helps really a lot.
But we're not far away from that. I think OpenAI or one of those AI companies last year also showed that if you record of your voice enough, you can actually have ask the AI to do voiceover for you.
Yeah, have you watched?
I remember there was something like that last time.
Have you watched the video of Anwar speaking Korean?
Yes,
on
that was
X?
that time.
Wow.
So that was not far.
It was a
that was last year, and
shocking video to watch.
when his tone, in his voice.
It sounds like him.
So not too bad. I mean, closer to home, actually Nvidia has actually secured one customer, which is YTL Power International Berhad. So YTL Power has actually launched the YTL AI Cloud, Malaysia's first artificial intelligence cloud focused on large-scale graphics processing unit-based computing.
They are going to use the H100 or the new one? Or
Blackwell.
the Blackwell?
The latest.
The latest one?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they were here early this year.
Correct.
They were at Johor announcing the data centers. This has some relation to that because at YTL Power being so close to Nvidia lah in that sense.
So in terms of machine capability, YTL Power has a greater machine than Meta.
You can. Who knows? Maybe they'll come up with a next social media platform.
I don't know, man. We shall see.
But this initiative also is supported by Nvidia and also the government, which aims to enhance scientific research, innovation, and economic progress in the region, right? So this supercomputer will be housed in the YTL Green Data Center campus in Johor, powered by its on-site 500 megawatt solar power facility.
Okay, so it's green also lah.
Yeah. So talking about AI, we've seen a lot of mentions about Microsoft, right, having invested in
OpenAI.
We've seen a lot about Nvidia, right? We've seen a bit about Google, right, because they're trying to get into the game with Gemini. But what happened with Gemini, I think when it came to image processing for Gemini was a bit of a off.
OpenAI has an upper hand, put it that way.
Correct. But we've never heard much from one company, right, which is one of the most valuable companies in the world today, which is
Apple?
Yeah, which is Apple. So Apple doesn't seem to have much news in this space, right? Until recently, so they have apparently in talks with OpenAI and Google, right? So they are looking to leverage Google's Gemini in this instance. So it's sort of like their playbook with their search engine.
Yeah lah, since Apple kena sue in Europe for that Digital Market Act.
I think so.
Digital Market Act. Since Apple got sued $2 billion in the EU under the Digital Markets Act, I think then they thought that why not just open up my whole ecosystem and because of that, they can collaborate with any other vendors outside.
Correct.
So they have chosen Google in terms of their AI power going forward.
iOS 18 is coming up probably in June, and the announcements are coming up in June, so it's not too far away. It's 3 months away, and Apple has big plans for its AI. Not sure how big, but mainly on phone for now. Nothing generative, I would think so. So if you have an Apple device, which is the default search engine?
I'm not so sure because I don't use Safari. I straight away turn on my Chrome.
Your Chrome, okay. Yeah. So I use Safari.
You use Safari.
And the default search engine is actually Google. Right? So Google pays 36% of its Safari search revenue to Apple for Apple having featured them as the main search engine on Safari. That is the default search engine.
How much is this 36%?
Back in 2021, that was 18 billion.
18 billion just to put the Google search line on the default
so
page.
because these days you type on your phone, you straight away search right?
Straight away search from the address
Google?
bar.
So that is
$18 billion.
$18 billion premium.
Wow.
And that was
Good
2021.
business.
And another chip maker also seems to be lagging behind, which is Intel. Right, we haven't heard much from Intel as well in this space.
Yeah, these days it's all about Nvidia only.
Yeah, Nvidia has been the darling of everyone lah. But especially a lot of companies are also ramping up to buy from Nvidia, right? So Intel not lagging behind, so they are intending to spend $100 billion to build and expand factories in the US. And why in the US? Because of course there's a lot of tax breaks from the government.
And also because of this trade war and all this chip war and whatnot. So the US government would also want their US companies to stay onshore lah. Don't go elsewhere. Stay in the US.
Correct. So they are looking to revamp build sites in New Mexico, Oregon, and expand its operations in Arizona. And this is part of Intel's 5-year spending plan, which it intends to create the largest AI chip manufacturing site in the world near Ohio, starting as soon as 2027.
Wow, but 2027 in the tech world is very far in the future.
Yeah. It almost feels like 4 years. It is 4 years, 3 years. I think it's probably like 30 years.
Yes, correct. By the time you reach 2027, probably it is not so groundbreaking anymore given how aggressive Nvidia is, how aggressive Microsoft, Google and Apple is, right? And there are other competitors as well, like AMD and all that. They are also quite aggressive.
They're also
all
catching
this.
up.
Yeah.
And we also featured one news where there was a Japanese, I think Japan also wanted to do its own
yes,
chip.
and they are trying to build a hub in Hokkaido. We talked about that in, I think, 1 or 2 episodes back before. So do check it out. Maybe it serves as an archive for you to look back what were the interesting news in the past.
Yeah. And OpenAI is probably also enter into this space because they, Sam Altman that time wanted a 7 trillion funding into this space, right? So it's a competition. It's open market, but good for the consumers, I guess, because they will have choice.
Yep. Okay, coming back to Malaysia a little bit. I think every time we talk about stocks, talk about the market, maybe we go into something lighter. And let's come back to Malaysia. So in 2026, it's time for the Commonwealth Game again. Not a very big sports event, but big enough if you are staying in a Commonwealth country.
Yeah, but it's not really happening, Frankie. I'm sorry to say, but it's not happening.
Not happening.
Because no country wants to host.
Why?
It's too expensive.
Oh.
It's too expensive. But guess who has the opportunity to host? Malaysia.
Malaysia lah.
Malaysia got the opportunity to host. So the government has been offered to host the 2026 Commonwealth Games after Australia withdrew due to spiraling cost concerns. Hosting costs grew beyond their expectations, reaching 7 billion Australian dollars, which is about 21 billion ringgit.
Oh, so people don't want already, then give it to us.
Give it to us, but of course there is an incentive, right? There is £100 million incentives to host this game.
But if you're talking about 21.6 billion ringgit cost involved, and you're only getting an incentive of 600 million ringgit, nah, it's not a good deal.
It's not a good deal.
It's not a good deal.
And it's 2 years away. Do we even have enough time to get the infrastructure right?
The last time we hosted a Commonwealth game, I still remember it was 1998.
Yep.
The logo was a hibiscus flower with the 98 embedded inside, right?
Yeah, memorable.
So I still remember during that time, the whole country was rushing to build Stadium Bukit Jalil, those kind of
LRT.
Sports. Yes, correct.
Right?
Those sports facilities and the infrastructure
highways,
around it.
Right.
Correct. So, and fast forward to 2024 this year, and we are 2 years away from the supposedly Commonwealth Game to happen. All those assets are very old already.
Yep.
Right. If you talk about upgrading also, I think it will take quite a lot of money to do that.
Yep.
And if you're talking about building even bigger stadiums and even larger sports facilities, I don't think 2 years is able to pull it off that easily.
You're not the only one who would think so. So Tun Hashim Muhammad Ali, the key figure in Malaysia hosting the 1998 Commonwealth Games, is actually against the country stepping up as a replacement host for the 2026 edition, right? He said the government would definitely need to spend more than 100 million incentive given, right, by the Commonwealth Games Federation. And given the country's current economic situation, he said the massive spending is likely required, to run the game, and it's going to invite criticism from the rakyats.
What if, because this is a Commonwealth game, what if all the Commonwealth country chip some money into a tabong and then use this tabong money to build the infrastructure?
Even in Malaysia?
Okay, so because the game is supposed to rotate among
Correct.
Commonwealth country,
Correct.
why not we come up with a practice where every country will chip money into the tabong, and then every year or every time a Commonwealth Games happens, then you can utilize this fund to help the hosts to build the infrastructure.
Unlikely lah, because it's quite an expensive endeavor. And a country, because when you chip in the money, who really benefits from the games?
It's the host,
The host country,
the
right?
host
So
country,
why would...
But it will eventually come back to you, ma.
But what if a country goes broke?
It is a symbol of unity. The reason why we have all these sports events is a symbol of unity. Like the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, the SEA Game, all these things, they serve the same purpose. So I think by having this initiative where everyone is supposed to contribute something and to help other countries to build as well, I think from the humanitarian perspective, it's okay. It makes sense. But whether countries and governments will do it or not, that's a different story.
A lot of also geopolitical play at hand.
Correct.
Which gets a bit murky.
Correct.
Even former Youth and Sports Minister Khairi Jamaluddin called the idea reckless because he thinks at least a host needs 4 years to set up proper infrastructures. And Sohadi alias the Youth and Sports Ministry's Sports Commissioner also questioned the financial implications of hosting the Commonwealth Games, right? And monetization and spillover benefits will be likely minimal at best.
If you think about 1998 Commonwealth Game as an example, right? After we hosted the game, the stadium basically got no other usage anymore.
Mainly for concerts lah.
For concerts, and then we host some games,
some
and
football
stuff like
games.
that. But eventually it becomes so run down that it needs a lot of money to refurbish and all that.
Even when it comes to hosting all these big events, big sporting events, very few can make revenue or make money from positive.
It's a short burst lah. Because during the game, tourists will come.
There are jobs created.
Correct. But after that, very hard to say.
So Paris' upcoming Olympic Games are projected to have the minimal long-term financial impact on France. And this is estimated by S&P Global, right? Saying that 95% of its venues are already constructed or only require minor renovations, right? The budget for hosting the upcoming Olympic Games is actually nearing 9 billion euros.
Well, even that, you also need 9 billion euros.
This is lower than, previous host cities like Tokyo, Rio, London, and significantly lesser than the record-setting expenditure of Beijing's 2008 Olympics. That cost 52.7 billion.
Wow.
So, when it comes to risk of cost overruns, it's actually very high. So, London's 2012 Olympics exceeded their budget by $5 billion. Tokyo's recent, which, because of the pandemic, faced nearly 26 billion in overruns. But despite all this, cabinet is in discussion whether to really host Commonwealth Games or not.
Because this is also a phase problem, right?
In a way.
Like you are chosen as a host country and then you are not able to host it properly. No face.
Correct. And I think maybe government want to do some PR also lah. If they can host it, happy, right? Not bad. This Mandari government can, host Commonwealth Games in the span of 2 years. It's going to be a feat, but at what cost? So let us know, do you think the government should host the Commonwealth Games?
So that's all we have for this week's news. We are also on Spotify, so check us out there. The name of the show is called The Weekly Roundup by the FAQ Show.
If you don't like seeing our faces, like listen to our voices, okay, Spotify is a good choice.
And don't forget to subscribe to The Coffee Break to keep yourself updated with the hottest and juiciest news.
Every day we send you news, and subscribe and stay informed.
See you guys next week.